You know, if you're MSNBC, it truly may be time to freak out. It's looking more and more like Paramount Skydance is about to purchase CNN. And who is going to take over CNN? And who is even going to take over CBS in 60 Minutes? Well, Scott Jennings, of course, the bane of the insane over at MS Now.
That Democrats were the ones that were hurting people, making this fight.
Who was casting the votes against opening the government? Democrats or Republicans?
Who was
casting the votes?
Hollywood is absolutely furious because Scott Jennings has taken down one of their own. From Blast, hosted by Yahoo, Michael Douglas and Catherine Zeta-Jones are reportedly furious over their son's on-air humiliation on CNN. Now, this would be a fun story if we stuck with this, because they have a kid. He's a young adult, but they're treating him like a kid. They're furious that said young kid, who probably has the life experience of someone raised by celebrities, you get the idea, that he went on to CNN and got absolutely demolished. But that's really not the full story that we're going here, folks. What we're talking about is that they can get used to much more of this, because it looks like Scott Jennings is going to be ruling CNN and CBS News, not just CNN. MSNBC should be very worried. Here's the story. Michael Douglas and his wife, Catherine Zeta-Jones, are reportedly very displeased over the manner in which their son, Dylan, was humiliated during a roundtable discussion on politics with CNN commentator Scott Jennings. Young Dylan was left stuttering incomprehensibly midway through the interview, which has seemingly become a source of mockery behind the scenes. Yeah, you think? Let's go to it, folks. We'll show you what happened right here. This is Scott Jennings on CNN versus the celebrity offspring of Michael Douglas and Catherine. Here we go.
You cannot put on the American people that Democrats were the one that were hurting people, making this plight.
Who was casting the votes against opening the government? Democrats or Republicans?
Who was
casting the votes?
Scott, who was wanting to cut SNAP benefits?
Nobody.
And who was playing up SNAP benefits after two courts ruled that it was unallowed?
Republicans voted to fund SNAP 15 times. Democrats voted to defund it 15 times. And now it took, and we had to get 8 to join us.
You talk about the Affordable Health Care Act, okay?
It's terrible.
Landmark legislation is not perfect. We understand that. Democrats, Republicans, independents, 70% of Americans, not Democrats, not just independents, 70% of Americans believe that they should increase those subsidies past the dead mark of December, the COVID era subsidy benefits.
Everybody look at Scott Jennings right now. This is a man who feels pity. This is a man.
I don't think so. I think that is I'm about to deliver the final blow.
Is this the way a lion looks at an elderly caribou? I don't know.
I think Scott Jennings is thinking, how does a man whose grandfather was Kirk Douglas become such a huge?
He's thinking he's not Spartacus.
Here's just a little bit more, folks. Just a little bit more.
So it's a huge thing that Democrats, Republicans, 70% agree with. And look, when it comes to the government shutdown, I was of the persuasion that to go for it, I didn't really get it. Democrats wanted a fight. They got a fight. Chuck Schumer, back in last year, didn't fight. He got a lot of flack for it, particularly in his home state of New York. So they wanted a fight, but they found a fight that was worth fighting with talking about the Affordable Health Care Act. People were with them. Democrats were leading in the polls. We won big on Tuesday.
That's what it was for, right? It was for the election, right?
Well, I think we should have kept going. What I don't understand, and which I would love others.
Scott's he knows he's got him. Folks, why does this matter, though? Why is this a big enough story for us to cover? We don't normally cover Scott Jennings destroying a celebrity's kid. It's because of this. Out of AV Club by Drew Gillis, Barry Weiss reportedly has ideas for CNN. Now, Barry Weiss is the head of Paramount Skydance, and the Ellisons just put together this giant company, and they're probably going to buy up Warner Brothers Discovery, and they're probably going to do that because, amazingly, they say they want CNN. Now, why does Barry Weiss want CNN? They're going to turn CNN into what you just saw, 24/7. They're going to get away from what CNN has become, and they're going to do Scott Jennings as the superstar, and they're going to put him on CBS. And how do we know they're going to put him on CBS? Because they tried to buy him away from CBS, or from CNN. And you know why they stopped? Because they're probably just going to buy CNN outright anyway. So they stopped trying to buy him out and get him over to CBS because they can have him everywhere. Scott Jennings on 60 Minutes. And do you know how Hollywood is going to react to the guy who's taking down their kids, that think they're smart, that think they're the next big podcaster? Do you know how Hollywood is going to react if Scott Jennings is ruling CBS and CNN simultaneous and Barry Weiss is overseeing the whole thing? It's meltdown time, folks. It's meltdown time. I want to see what Rachel Maddow has to say about this. Hey, Wiz, what do you got to say about this? You got any interest in seeing Scott Jennings go toe-to-toe with everybody from dusk to dawn on all the news networks?
I am interested in anything that is going to shake up and cause disruption in the news zeitgeist. So I am excited for this because for a long time, the news agencies have been able to just play it safe, play it to the status quo, and viewers and regular people, regular Americans, are sick of that. We're sick of the regular status quo where nothing has to improve. There's a ton of bias across the airwaves on all sides. And so anything that is going to cause massive disruption is a great thing for the people paying to watch this stuff, for the people paying for cable, paying for YouTube TV. So having Scott Jennings on, clearly he's getting ratings because people know who Scott Jennings is. People are paying attention to what Scott Jennings has to say. So this is great. I'm here for it because there's going to be people enraged about this or celebrating this. Either way, it's a win. Disruption is great.
Yeah, they, 60 Minutes, that whole crew, Scott Paley-Peely and all of them, they did everything they could to sabotage Skydance and Paramount from getting a hold of CBS and 60 Minutes. And now, because of what they've done, it looks like they're not done. They're going to get CNN. And this is crazy at this point. The idea that the centrist at best, conservatives at worst for Hollywood, the Ellisons are going to run two of their most important news outlets, and MSNBC, which is now adrift and called MS Now, is going to be the only left-leaning cable news channel remaining on TV.
Yep.
Fascinating.
It is. By the way, I
that
don't
whole...
understand-
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, that whole encounter had something else going on, if I may point it out. Michael and Catherine, his parents, should be pretty damn sophisticated at the media and the press and the whole thing from their years of experience of dealing with it as actors and producers and all the rest. If you watch that kid's face, he doesn't think he's losing. He thinks he's winning. Scott Jennings is sitting there smiling, going, yeah, right, sure. But if he had just shut up about it, the people who believe in him might have thought he won too. But once they said, oh, you beat up on him, you call attention to the fact that he got his clock cleaned.
That's a good point.
That was stupid.
That's a good point.
That was astoundingly stupid. They should have let it go.
That is a phenomenal point, Lou. I would have missed that one. I appreciate you grabbing that one up.
That's what I'm here for.
Lauren, the Hollyweirds, they're so accustomed to be treated as royalty, and you're not supposed to go after them in any kind of way, nor their offspring, and yet that's what happened on CNN, and it's what they could expect to happen again and again if Paramount Skydance does indeed get a hold of CNN and add it to their quiver of news outlets that make all of the wokies shiver at the idea that this is going to go down this way. What do you think happens, Lauren, if suddenly we have a total 180 in news, and at least in cable, the only one left is MS Now of that persuasion? How does it change the paradigm?
Well, it depends. I think it's only a good thing if things do get shaken up. I think that it's important to have media outlets that are not supporting a particular side. I think that the Democratic Party has largely gotten flabby and forgotten how to debate because for so long they had the bully pulpit and the media on their side. And so that's not great for informing the public. If you're only getting one side and you're not hearing a substantive debate, that's not good for the Republic. On the other hand, I don't think things are going great in general, and I think the public is just about ready to start eating eating the rich, eating the politicians, eating the media. I don't think they care. I think they're mad. And this is something that maybe should have started a year or two ago. So what kind of an impact it will have over time, I'm not sure. I think it's a good thing. I'm just afraid it may be too late.
By the way, this is what Mark Mitchell over at Rasmussen has found. And I know some people have not necessarily understood what he's trying to say with clarity. What Rasmussen is talking about lately is that, especially the younger generation that's come into the workforce, that the reason they will go from Trump to Mamdani in a heartbeat is they're desperate for somebody to come in and help them because they didn't have physical assets largely. They didn't own homes before those assets skyrocketed in value. And so whereas everybody else can trade back and forth, they were not on board with that. And now they can't afford to live almost. And nobody is stepping in to save the day for them and give them a better way.
I think it's worse than that, because I think that you have a squeeze coming on from the other side as well, as we have the retirement age raised to 67. And then you're also seeing older folks in the workforce being laid off before the traditional retirement age. And now you've got AI coming in and replacing jobs. So you have
the AI thing's going to be incredible over the next few years in terms of the amount of change.
But what you have here is a system that can't possibly work, because you have people that are supposed to work until they're 67 but can't keep their jobs. You have younger people who can't move up in the corporate chain and can't afford a house. So how is any of this supposed to work?
And all that's primed, Lauren, so that if somebody in the news organizations, Barry Weiss, if she's got any sense, somebody grab onto this and report it every day, and your ratings will skyrocket because you will be shining a light on what matters to Americans. And it's the economy, it's the economy, it's the economy. Well said.
Yeah, I think that's definitely true, and I think it's going to be a big problem coming up here in the next year. Because if you've been watching the Black Friday sales and the Cyber Monday stuff and the reporting on that, nobody's buying anything.
It's been a rough one.
The deals are bad.
Yeah,
unless it's a 68-inch macaroni and cheese. That's
right. Marv, you're in the news business. I don't know if you know this or not, but you're a journalist. What do you think happens as we look into this paradigm shift with the mainstream media? I think this also will put pressure on ABC and NBC. They're going to have pressure on them if suddenly the Ellisons are doing accurate reporting and fair reporting out of CBS and CNN.
I think that an animal is at its most dangerous when it is wounded. And I think what you are going to see is MSNBC go so far into the weeds.
Yes,
to the left, and I think
they're going to chase the Mamdani crowd.
Yep, and I think ABC is going to follow suit because they're going to see they're going to see a void that they can fill. So I don't think that this is the end of left-leaning news. I think it's about to get a lot more Rachel Maddow-y.
I think it's going to get more. I think it's going to get so extreme that Rachel Maddow might feel uncomfortable.
It's possible. It's definitely, especially as they start to bring in more of these like Gen Z up and coming college graduates, if any of them are actually graduating from college, because they are the ones that are like, nothing that ever happened before I was born matters. Communism can work. So they're the ones that are going to be the pundits soon. And once that happens, it's over for that side of the media.
I want to go to Tom. Tom, are you there? Are you available, yeah. Tom? Okay, Tom. You've had some interesting thoughts on this whole Paramount Skydance thing, in terms of, are they going to buy Warner Brothers? Is somebody else going to buy Warner Brothers? Does Warner Brothers wind up unpurchased? What's your read on it now, Tom? How likely is this at this point?
Well, there's so many levels to this. As far as like
out of noise, and they.
Go ahead, Tom.
What did he say? I didn't hear him.
We had a little audio issue. Go ahead, Tom.
Oh, okay. As far as like the whole idea of a down the middle news organization that Ellison is running, you have a problem. Ellison has already been, talked about from Trump and all that kind of stuff. So that's nobody's ever going to give it a fair shake. Everybody's going to say it's just like Fox News Part 2. Okay, so there's that problem. The second problem you have here is that nobody is going to offer Zaslav the kind of money that he is going to expect and that his shareholders will expect for a Warner Brothers sale. because all the offers that are coming in are pretty lowball. Now, what do I mean by that? Because 20th Century Fox went for $71.3 billion. Fox doesn't have the same amount of assets that Warner Brothers has. Warner Brothers has music, a bunch of cable networks that dwarf the amount of stuff that Fox had, and they have a catalog that's way bigger than Fox's and a bunch of IP that Fox doesn't have. Because a large portion of Fox's IPs were licensed. The only things they really owned that are of any value, you've seen Disney milk them already. They're called Alien and Predator. That's about it. Like, they didn't have much else. Like X-Men and all that other stuff, that was all licensed from Marvel. So you have a situation here where David Ellison is not going to sell Warner Brothers for especially less than 71.3 billion. It's going to have to be more like 80. And that's why I think Ellison is trying to get some money from the Saudis, because he knows that it's going to take more than $71 billion. Sorry, not million. And at this point, I don't see it being sold, because every time they've been asked about it, or some spokesman's talked about it, or even Zaslav himself, he's like, yeah, we're going to entertain these offers, but they still talk about just spinning the company off, which I think is their ultimate goal at this point. Because unless they get the offer they want, I don't think he's going to sell. Because initially when he got into this game, that was the plan. Come in, flip the house, and move on. But rumors are now that I've been reporting for years, and I was actually one of the first people, if not the first people to talk about it, are now being talked about in the trades, and that is that David Zaslav has started to like being a movie mogul. He doesn't really want to go anywhere. So unless these deals really have anything to do with him sticking around, he's probably not going to be interested in them either. But I mean, again, he has to worry about his shareholders at the end of the day. And to him, unless an $80 billion offer or something in that range comes in, there's no reason for him to sell Warner Brothers, because that's a lowball offer otherwise. When 20th Century Fox just sold for 71 at the end of the day. So I think unless that happens, unless somebody can come up with a bunch of money that can make it happen, I don't see it happening. And for some reason, Trump has already alluded to Netflix is not going to get the clearance they need from the government.
Oh yeah. That we
were talking about that this morning. Yeah.
Yep. We reported on that on Midnight Stitch in the morning. We wrote about it on that Park Place today. The New York Post had an exclusive where they basically said that interviews or meetings within the highest levels of the federal government are saying that Netflix needs to not even bother, because they are going to not only tie them up in regulatory hurdles, but they are then going to use that as an excuse to look a lot more deeply into Netflix as a company, which is something that Netflix does not want.
Now, whether or not that's appropriate for the government, we'll leave that, folks. You already know, having heard that, what you think about it. And I'm not going to persuade you one way or the other. But I'll say this. If it turns out that Paramount Skydance gets a hold of these companies as opposed to Netflix, you know what's going to happen with the news organizations. And it would be the first time in forever that a conservative network news outlet was out there with a cable news channel paired with it. And that, I believe, is what they're after inside the Trump administration. Is it fair for them to put their thumbs on the scale? Folks, you already know the answer that you believe. I'll just tell you, it's about to get real spicy, real quick, with Warner Brothers Discovery.